Ladies and gentlemen, let me first take this opportunity to apologize. I know the media had been called here for earlier, I think 2-3 hours earlier. We thought we would crack this because I had so many professors. But I think the more professors we had, the more things got difficult. So, but let me apologize, but finally, we have a very good product. I am very proud of the agreement that has been reached between my officials at the Ministry of Education and the good people, the professors and the vice chancellors from our universities and the leadership of our TVET institutions. As Kenyans are aware, we've had a running problem almost for the last 30 years about university funding. All of us remember that the current fees that university students are paying were agreed 34 years ago, the 16,000. And it has remained that all the years. We're all aware that also that we have huge, serious crisis in the funding of our institutions of higher learning. Our universities and TVETs are struggling. Many universities have court cases. They cannot pay their lecturers. And statistics show that the 54 billion that we budget for university education is less than 50% of the requirement of our universities to carry out the curriculum being taught in our universities. As a result, universities have been forced to cut corners, if I may put it crudely, and look for alternative ways of trying to get our students taught. And therefore, it became necessary, and I did ask my economic team, led by Professor David Ndii, who is here, to sit down with our university vice chancellors. They've had many meetings. I have had many meetings myself with the team that was negotiating. I think I have had 7 different meetings for many hours. I am happy to announce to the country that finally we have a new funding model for our universities and our TVETs in the Republic of Kenya that will provide adequate resources that are predictable and that are adequate for the teaching of our children, because we believe that as a country, the single biggest resource we have as a nation is our human capital. And education is the instrument that we use to sharpen our human capital. Any underinvestment, any challenge in our education spells not very good news to our human capital. And therefore, I want to make the following statement. In recent times, higher education has experienced significant expansion, providing numerous high school graduates with opportunities to pursue a university degree or a college diploma or a certificate in a TVET. However, it also encounters various challenges, primarily due to the massive enrollments and inadequate funding. Most of our universities are sagging under a heavy burden of huge debts arising from unpaid staff salaries, unremitted statutory deductions, pensions, SACCO dues, bank loans, and unpaid suppliers. In total, our universities are indebted to the tune of 60.2 billion Kenya shillings, a figure that continues to grow every month. Similarly, the technical and vocational education training institutions, the challenge has been the increase in enrollment from about 90,000 8 years ago to 327,000, leading to a reduction in funding per trainee over the years from an average of 30,000 to as low as 17,000 a year last year. It is therefore crucial and necessary to develop a new funding model to address the financial challenges facing higher education. This new funding model does not increase university fees. Let me repeat that. This new funding model does not increase university fees. In the financial year 2022-2023, Kenya shillings 54 billion was allocated to university education, both as grant and as loans. In the next financial year, under the new model, we are increasing the budgetary allocation from 54 billion to 84.6 billion, an extra 30.6 billion. This is an increase of 56% and translates to an increase of funding per student from 152,000 to Kenya shillings 208,000, an increase of 37%. The budgetary allocation for TVETs will increase from 5.2 billion this financial year to Kenya shillings 10 billion in the, the budgetary allocation for TVETs will increase from 5.2 billion in the financial year 22-23 to Kenya shillings 10 billion in the financial year 2023-2024. The cost of training TVET students will be 67,000 Kenya shillings per year per trainee, and that is significant. Universities and TVETs will no longer receive, under the new funding model, block funding in form of grants based on differentiated unit costs. The government has resolved that university funding will henceforth be student-centered and be apportioned to individual students according to their level of need. Funding to students shall combine scholarships, loans, and household contributions on graduated scale, scientifically determined by means testing instrument. The means testing instrument is an instrument that has been developed by Higher Education Loans Board over the last 20 years. Students will be categorized according to 4 levels of need. Vulnerable, actually 3 levels: vulnerable, less vulnerable, and able. All students shall be supported adequately to meet the cost of the program they choose to pursue. No student will ever be left behind. The government shall fully fund the vulnerable students, who comprise 29% of students joining university. And these are 45,000 students will be funded fully by the government of Kenya. And in our TVET institutions, 42,000 students this year will equally be funded fully by the government of Kenya. Their parents will contribute nothing. The funding shall be through government scholarships and loans. For the first time, Students whose households are at the bottom of the pyramid shall enjoy equal opportunity in accessing university and Tibet education. Their households shall not make any contributions towards the education of their children because of their financial status. Students from less needy households joining university will receive government scholarship of up to 53% and loans from the government of up to 40%, a total of 93%. 7% will be contributed by their households to meet the university education. Category number 3, the able students from able households joining university will be funded through a government scholarship up to a maximum of 38% of the cost of the program and 55% in form of loans. Again, in this case, their households will pay only 7%. The difference between these two is that the less needy students will get more scholarship and less loan. The able students will get more loans and less scholarship. In the Tibet category, the less needy students joining Tibet will receive government scholarship up to a maximum of 50% and 30% loans from the government. Their households will pay 20% of the cost. The able students joining Tibet will be funded to the tune of 32% for government scholarship and 48% for government loans, and their households will equally contribute 20% of their cost. Universities will therefore be required to declare and publicize the actual cost of their programs. No public university shall levy additional charges or raise its fees without the approval of the University Funding Board. Students who are eligible shall apply for government scholarships, loans, as well as bursaries from complementary funding agencies, including county governments, the national government constituency development funds, and private companies. The University Funding Board shall share information with students on availability of sources of funding through its portal and streamline the application program. The new model of funding higher education to be implemented effective this academic year 2023-2024 will commence with a new cohort of 173,127 students joining universities and 145,325 students joining Tibet. All continuing government-sponsored students shall be supported in line with the previous existing funding model. Starting from 2023-2024 academic year, the process of placing students to universities and Tibet shall not be linked to funding. All universities and Tibet shall, with immediate effect, disclose and provide information on the cost of their academic programs to the Kenya University and Colleges Central Placement Service. The Placement Service shall publish this information prior to placement of students so that students can choose the universities they want to join. With a new funding model, universities and Tibet will be motivated to raise additional resources and to enhance the quality of education so as to attract more students. Overall, there will be 4 funding streams to ensure the sustainability of university and Tibet. This shall include student-centered funding, the one I have explained. We are going to interrogate now research funding. We are going also to separate this from capital infrastructure grants that will now go to universities for development of university facilities. And also we will be encouraging fee for service, such as consultancy, where universities can provide this service. Having developed an elaborate framework on student-centered funding, we shall turn our attention to the other three funding options in the short term. Let me also explain that we have agreed with these good people that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics will work out how these fees will be graduated year by year, will give us the model so that we do not end up with the situation where we are today, that we are using numbers that were agreed upon 30 years ago. These numbers shall keep increasing year by year, depending on what the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics gives us, what is that factor that we are going to be working on. The Cabinet Secretary for Education shall take immediate action to operationalize the new funding model as it has been agreed between the Government of Kenya and our university and TVET institutions. I can take a question or two. Asanteni sana. Kuna maswali pale?
My name is Shadrach Miti from KTN. We know up to now there has been an unusually delayed opening of the COOPS portal. Perhaps in the discussion, how soon are we going to see that so that now students can start applying for the same? And in the discussion, were there any agreements around placing governments, students in private universities? Because it's a discussion that has been on for some time.
Thank you very much. We did not open the portal by COOPS because we needed to agree on the funding model, and we needed to agree not to admit students to universities and TVETs without us having a plan on how their funding and their education would be carried out. We've postponed this challenge for many years, and as a result, our universities and TVETs have suffered a great deal. And many of the vice chancellors you see here have gray hair, not because of old age, but because of trying to manage the situation in their universities. And so we decided that it is time that we sat down, figured out, and I am very pleased to note that these great ladies and gentlemen from our universities, their contribution in developing this model has been immense. In fact, our work was made very simple because they came with the good ideas that we assembled and got this funding model in place. COOPS was waiting for this meeting. So I am confident that by when I saw the lady in charge of COOPS was here, by when will we open the portal now? Give her the mic.
Your Excellency, once the universities have given us their costs, which I hope they will do in a week's time, we'll be ready to open.
Thank you very much. On your second question, yes, we have discussed on what we are going to do with our private universities. And the agreement has been that, just like has been before, students who join private universities will qualify for loans from the Higher Education Loans Board. They will, however, not qualify for scholarships from the Government of Kenya. I think that's the only issue. because we believe that the students in our private universities equally deserve our support. That's why we have said they will qualify for Higher Education Loans Board, just like all the other students. The scholarship from government will only be limited to students in public universities. Any other question?
My name is David Muchongo from the Daily Nation. You have given the categories of the students that we will be the vulnerable, less vulnerable, and able. Do we have a formula of working that out so that we weed out fraudsters?
Yes, it is exactly the point why we have, and as I told you, we have a means testing instrument. We have a means testing instrument that has been in the works since I was at the university, almost 25, 30 years ago. And it has been refined, and it is scientific, and I am confident that it can deal with the challenge of fraudsters. Maybe give the mic to Mr. Ingera, I think he's in our midst, to speak to that particular subject. Mr. Ingera is the means testing instrument able to deal with the challenge of fraudsters trying to take advantage of our university funding program.
Thank you, His Excellency. I can confirm we have a lot of linkages with Kenya Revenue Authority.
Maybe you can look at those cameras so that...
Yes, I want to confirm that the means testing instrument has linkages with the Kenya Revenue Authority, the Registrar of Persons, and we fetch data from all these people. Remember again, the local chief has to sign off that form, and also your local pastor. So if you have to lie as a fraudster, then you lie with all those good people. Thank you.
Okay. Finally, I think we are good. Situachi hapo, niko na wageni wengine, poleni wadosi. I will look for another opportunity we can